Hello and welcome to the second of our mini Cheltenham Festival podcast for SBK. Another 15-minute pod coming your way. Hopefully you enjoy it. I apologise in advance for my blocked nose and stuffiness. Hopefully that doesn't detract from what this podcast will bring you. My name is Tom Collins. This man is Mr. Ross Miller, who had a fantastic day on Monday when his horse Roger went and won at Stratford, and another brilliant day on Tuesday as well, with plenty of winners. Slade Steele, Chianti Classico just being two of them. Ross, you must be a happy man.
Yeah, I mean, this game, you have to take the ups and downs. I do try and sit in the middle and not get too down when things are going badly and not get too above my station when they're going well. But yeah, yesterday was just brilliant. But today is what we're at about. I thought Slade Steele was very brave to get back up. Not many would pick up from that jump at the last and win going up the hill. Chianti Classico, as you know, I've been a big fan of since he made his chase debut at Chepstow. And then Lossiemouth, I was a bit concerned about the ground. You told me not to worry, and you were dead right. I mean, she won that. She would have won over 3 miles, wouldn't she? So yeah, we've had a good day and plenty more to look forward to. I'm sure it won't start this for the week, but we'll enjoy it while it lasts.
Absolutely. And we're recording this before the National Hunt Chase. We're actually recording this at 4:20 on Tuesday. So we don't even know who's won in our big battle between Embassy Gardens and Corbet's Cross. We're completely against each other then. But hopefully one of them wins and we can talk about it in the podcast that you'll see tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about the Champion Hurdle then quickly. State Man was ridden probably further back than many anticipated, including Willie Mullins in the post-race interview, but he loomed up large into the race alongside Irish Point, and he kicked clear in the style of a proper horse. He is a proper horse, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm delighted he's going to, when he retires, he'll have a Champion Hurdle to his name. I thought it was a very confident performance by Paul Townend. You think he would have been in big trouble if he'd have not got that one. That clearly wasn't what the boss man was expecting, but I liked it. And people will say, oh, what's he beaten and how far has he won by? He won with any amount in hand. He was given a nice, composed ride that is the sort of ride that allows these horses to go forwards. You know, they only have so many big efforts in them. This horse probably hasn't had to turn in a season's best, I wouldn't think, to win this. He can go on to Aintree, he can go on to Punchestown. It's a very, very good bit of horsemanship, I think. So Paul Townend, for me, has been outstanding today.
Yeah, he was brilliant on day one from what we've seen so far. And this is a guy that many people thought wasn't going to be able to even partially fill the boots of Mr. Ruby Walsh. Now, obviously, Ruby's one of the best jockeys I've definitely ever seen, probably that you've ever seen as well, Ross. But Paul's definitely taken that step forward, and he was the best man on the show on Tuesday.
Yeah, he perhaps doesn't get the plaudits because Ruby, for all his sort of grumpy persona, is quite charismatic and is a very good talker. Paul is perhaps a bit more reserved, but you have to judge a jockey. Okay, he is sat on very good material, but that comes with a lot of pressure. He makes very, very few mistakes, and if he makes a mistake, you can guarantee he doesn't make it twice. I think he's absolutely solid. Yes, he perhaps lacks the flamboyance or the style point. It's very hard to look at him and say he's very stylish in this way or that. He's just very, very solid, and it shouldn't detract from his talent.
Yeah, exactly that. One last thing we should talk about before we move on to a brief review of the Arkle is that Nicky Henderson's horses have not been running well on Tuesday. Jericho de Repene completely bombed out. Excello bombed out in the Ultima as well. Marie's Rock showed no kind of form. Theatre Glory as well as that. Iberico Lord, who was supplemented for the Champion Hurdle, right out the back of the field. However, Lucia ran pretty well in third, Ross. She's only rated 140, and that was a career best. What do you make of the Henderson runners?
I think we're starting to see that perhaps not all is well. I'm trying to cling to the thread that Iberico Lord perhaps was out of his depth and Jericho de Repene didn't like the tacky ground at Doncaster, so maybe he just didn't go on the ground at all. But if you're on Nicky Henderson horses going forward, you are concerned. I hope he can bounce back.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just a bit disheartening if you like any of Hendo's horses moving forward. Okay, what about the Arkle then? You selected the winner, Ross, in Gaelic Warrior. I was doubtful about this horse. Look, I knew he was the most talented in the race, but I just didn't like the way he was jumping right-handed when he was last seen. And he has done it before on a left-handed course. Didn't matter today, did it? He was fantastic. He jumped almost gun barrel straight throughout the whole race. And to be honest, I imagine you had no moment of worry.
No, I didn't. I had a moment of worry when the hood was declared, as we mentioned yesterday. But I spoke yesterday about, my trainer Richard and his attention to detail, and you see it with Willie Mullins. The hood went on not just to have him settled, but they clearly feel the jumping right is not a physical issue. It's a psychological sort of quirk, and that the hood would make him jump straighter. I was quite confident that his jumping, when he's been jumping at pace and sent forward, has been straighter. I think he adjusted right a couple of times, but in that race, his jumping was outstanding compared to the rivals. And what a horse he is! We've got to bear in mind this horse won over 3 miles at Punchestown Festival, dropped back to win over 2 miles here, and could be called the winner at any point of the race. He's a really, really good horse when he is on his game. And how good must Factor File be?
Yeah, exactly. Really looking forward to watching him. We'll talk about the race in a few moments. Before we run through Wednesday's contest with our tips and our preview of the action, SBK has a double winnings offer to use each day of the Cheltenham Festival. If you watched the podcast yesterday, you'll know this already, but if you didn't, I'll fill you in. It means you can choose any horse in any race each day. You'll get paid out at double the odds on SBK if they win. 18 plus max stakes do apply. T's and C's as per usual. Okay, day 2 time. First up is the Gallagher Novice Hurdle at 1:30. Ballyburn's currently around 2 to 5 favourite for the race for Willie Mullins again, who also changed the second favourite in Il Atlantique. I liked Il Atlantique before I realised that Ballyburn was actually going to be declared for this race rather than the Supreme. I'm now jumping ship to Ballyburn. He looks like the best novice around. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, I won't have a bet in the race anymore. I backed Il Atlantique when I thought Ballyburn was going to the Supreme. So, I've paid my money, taken my chance. I think he's probably the second best horse in the race. Ballyburn will win this, provided it all goes well. I do think Il Atlantique has got a poor rep about being soft. I think he's run some solid races. He beat Fairnilly in a bumper. He only just went down to Firefox. Well, Firefox, I think, franked the form. I think he was slightly unlucky not to be a bit closer in the Supreme. If you haven't backed him and you want to back each way at a fairly short price, then maybe he's the one. But it's a race for me. I'll watch and enjoy and hopefully see a very smart horse in the form of Ballyburn sort of confirm his potential.
Yeah, fingers crossed he's going to be the next big star on the scene. Now, here's a short price, but you're probably looking for an accumulator or a double to put with him if you like Ballyburn. So onto the Brown Advisory, and that features another short price, a horse that could also go in a combination. And my nap of the meeting, in fact, to File, who we've already briefly touched on. I put this horse up as my novice chaser to follow at the start of the year. He was second to American Mike on his reappearance when the Mullins team wasn't really firing and Gordon Elliott was all guns blazing. He had 41 winners, Gordon Elliott, in the month in which American Mike beat Factor File. Subsequently, Factor File's been very impressive. Last time out, he beat a Gaelic Warrior that probably wasn't the Gaelic Warrior we saw on Tuesday, but anywhere like that kind of performance, I think he wins the Brown Advisory. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if the ground just dried and went tacky, you could maybe, if he gets beat, find an excuse there. But I think the talk about him has just been absolutely huge. He looks like an impressive horse. He jumps very well for one so inexperienced. Just slightly have the caveat, he has got to come down that Cheltenham hill. But if he does that, I think he'll win this and win this quite comfortably. Monty Star, if the ground stays testing, would perhaps be one I'd play to run into a place if I could get a decent enough price. But again, it's a quiet Wednesday for me. I'm just going to watch races rather than pile in. They're not my sort of prices, TC.
Yeah, after 2 more warm orders, we move on to a more competitive race in the Coral Cup. Much trickier puzzle, much bigger field. Who do you like in the first big handicap on Wednesday?
I like Ballyadam, TC. I've been with him from the start. Maybe a little bit concerned about the ground. Built by Ballymore would be of interest again if the ground is, and I think he needs to have the ground heavy. I think even soft isn't going to be slow enough for this horse. I actually put him up on one of my Racing TV pieces last time he won at Punchestown, and he got a little bit outpaced and then finished very, very strongly. He's not the quickest of hurdlers, and I just think if it's anything other than heavy ground, he could just find himself a bit too far back. So he would be interesting perhaps with a view to how the ground rides, but Ballyadam, I've been keen on him from the start. I'm not going to jump ship. And Doddy the Great, obviously, didn't think he was going to get in. Huge concern over the Nicky Henderson yard. But given it's such a competitive sort of week, I'm prepared to sort of go in a little bit blind and a bit daft, really, because I think Lucia clearly showed they're not all running under form. I'm hoping that Doddy the Great is stabled next to Lucia, not stabled next to Jericho de Repene, and we might get away with it.
Yeah, Ballyadam's 14-1. Doddy the Great's around 17-2, but I would imagine that price will go up with all the punters looking at all these Henderson horses underperforming. I'm going to be with 2 of Gordon Elliott's runners in this race, Gigoro and Western Fold, both of which are quite nice prices. Gigoro is very raw. He sluiced up in a heavy ground maiden hurdle before Christmas, which is kind of why I like him. He's got that proven form on testing conditions. Subsequently bumped into Tully Hill. Yes, he underperformed in the Supreme, but he is highly regarded. And Mystical Power, who ran very well to finish second in the Supreme. I think he could be well handicapped, Gigoro, and he looks like the first string for Gordon Elliott. Western Fold looks the second string on jockey bookings, but again, he's got very nice heavy ground form. And the horse that he beat last time, D'Art, I actually selected in the SBK podcast that week. I thought D'Art was about £10 well in. Western Fold made him look like he was walking up the home straight. So those two for me. Champion Chase time and the final Willie Mullins hot pot on day 2 in El Fabiolo. 6 from 6 over fences so far. Beat closest market rival John Bon in a romp in the Arkle last year. Will he make it 7 from 7 over the fences?
Yeah, I think so, TC. From the start of the year, I was desperately hoping that John Bon's jumping would perhaps be able to get Al Fabiolo into a bit of bother, but from what I saw last time at Cheltenham on Trials Day and what I saw in the schooling videos, I think that's very, very unlikely. And again, Nicky Henderson form, Al Fabiolo, Paul Townend, he's riding on a crest of a wave. Willie has clearly got his horse in good form. The testing ground is not going to be a bother to him. Edwardstone is the interesting horse to watch in the race and might be able to change the dynamic, but I still can't help thinking that you will find that Edwardstone ends up behind Al Fabiolo and probably John Bunn, and I think that is a shame for the race. But yeah, it's Al Fabiolo. It's another race, I'm afraid, where I'll just be watching and enjoying.
Yeah, me too for this one, but I do agree. El Fabiolo, much the likely winner. Edwardstone could be the one to put it up to him. Wouldn't be touching John Bon. The cross country comes up next, and to be honest, I don't care about this race at all. I won't be punting. It's definitely the least attractive race on the whole festival for me. There are some classy types in there: Minella Endo, Delta Work, Galvin, Statler. I just have no interest in it. Do you?
Not on this ground, TC. I mean, like I said, I'm interested to see how Minella Indo goes with a view to going forward to the Grand National. I'd like to see him run well. I think if you were looking for a bit of advice, and this is not a tip, I think Cocoa Beach is probably going to have ground conditions to suit, and he's not as lowly rated as people perhaps think. People see him as a handicapper. He's got a very high handicap mark. He's on a par. And I think he's actually rated higher than Delta Work, his stablemate. So he might be the one and on desperate ground, but it's another race to watch, I'm afraid.
Yeah, look out on social media as well. I think they're going to check the course in the morning to check it's okay. I mean, it was waterlogged on Tuesday. They could move it to Friday if it's still waterlogged, but all things being considered, it's likely at this stage to be on Wednesday. Okay, the Grand Annual is the penultimate contest on the second day of the festival. Looks wide open. SBK traders go 7-1 the field with Liberty Hunter right up there in the market with Sanois and Harper's Brook. Do you like any of those, or are you looking further down the race card like I am?
No, further down the race card, TC, and it was a horse I put up on the preview pod, Hardy de Soy, Jamie Snowden, Gavin Sheehan. The ground has come right for him. I have a slight concern over how he'd be ridden a little bit far back maybe, and he'll rely on a little bit of luck to travel forward. But Gavin Sheehan was in great form on Monday, obviously. Jamie Snowden knows how to win at the Cheltenham Festival. This is a horse that's been crying out for a strong pace on soft ground. He'll stay very well. If he gets a little bit of luck, which of course you're going to need in a 2-mile handicap over fences around Cheltenham, Hardy de Soy for me at a decent enough price.
Very nice. I like Mascada, who won this race last year. She comes in off £8 higher this time around, which is a bit of a concern, but she's definitely been primed for the race. And I actually liked how she performed last time in a much better contest than this. Dropping back into handicap, Mascada is interesting. Also, don't mix up Mascada and Madara. There's been a lot of money for Madara, actually, and could go off favourite for James Reevely. Okay, we head into the 2024 Cheltenham Festival half-time show with the Champion Bumper. An exceptionally difficult race. Very little form to go off. Lots of Willie Mullins runners. He's won 4 of the last 6 renewals, but with 4 different jockeys. Do you like any of his?
Yeah, I do, TC. I mean, I will say I think the last bumper winner I backed was Q-Cut. So that'll tell you, it's not a race I go hard in. It's not a race I'm great at. But I did like Sata Chance. I have to say, having said on the preview pod how well I thought Daryl Jacob had ridden this season, I don't think he's ridden very well today. I think he's been quite negative. I hope he gets out of bed in a better frame of mind tomorrow, because he was really quite negative on all of them today. Give this horse a positive ride. I think it's got some very good form in behind a horse called William Money in Ireland, who is perhaps second best bumper horse in Ireland. That would give him a chance. And I would just give a shout to the Brookhouse's Brecking Castle. I think that's a really smart horse, probably faced an impossible task trying to give away a penalty last time to a smart mare of Dan Skelton's. So those would be the 2 I'd play. But buyer beware with my form in the bumper, I think.
I'm definitely going to be with you with Sata Chance, though. I think the price is pretty attractive. And I agree with Daryl Jacob. I thought on Hunter's Yarn, he was very passive in the saddle. You've got to be more aggressive and go forward, like Sam Twiston Davis did with the owner mate. The other horse I like in the bumper is Romeo Coolio. Again, we haven't got much form to go off, but he was highly hyped after his point success. He won on Rule's debut, had to kind of make most of his running up front, and the race just didn't go to plan for him. Cost 420,000. Connections will be hoping that he can go close on Wednesday. Now that's day 2 covered. Before we go, I should ask you for your nap and next best on day 2.
I mean, it would be quite obvious the 2 nap and next best, but I'll shake it up a little bit. So I'll go nap, factor file. He's odds on, but he's not heavy odds on. I think he's a smart horse to go forward with. And my next best will be Hardy Soy in the Grand Annual.
I thought you were going to go for exactly the same nap and next best as me there. Factor file is my nap, of course, my nap of the festival in the 210. Next best is Safe to Chance, each way in the Champion Bumper at 5:30. One final offer for you to know about. SBK new customers can get £30 in free bets for the Cheltenham Festival when you sign up and place a £10 bet. T's and C's do apply. Please join us once again on Wednesday when we'll be reviewing some of Wednesday's action and previewing Thursday's action. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Best of luck with all your bets.